Bear down, Chicago Bears. It looks like Ryan Poles has made a decision. And that decision appears to be on the surface that they're not going to make any moves into this draft, that they're going to be satisfied with their four total picks, the lowest in the draft for any team, that he's not looking to make any moves and that they have a plan. When asked if they were taking Caleb Williams, number one overall, Ryan Poles and Ian Cunningham looked at each other, smiled, and said, "You'll have to tune into the draft to see what happens." And by the way, I did a mock draft using AI to make the mock draft, and it chose Drake May, which led me down a rabbit hole. And I'm going to get to that in a few minutes, but you're not going to believe the wild, unbelievable sort of insanity that I ended up with on this draft. It was unbelievable. It was crazy. So let's kick this off and let's see. If you like this content, by the way, make sure you hit the like button, subscribe button, and the bell to be notified of future content. And let's check it out. So first of all, the Bears have indicated in their opinion that they are a playoff threat. They think that what they've done so far has nicely equated to giving the Bears an opportunity for a nice and big run going into this season. And again, I told you guys, I think that they're going to do, I think it's a 13-win team potentially. Now, of course, a lot of things would have to go a lot of right in order for me to be even close in that regard. But there's tremendous upside for Caleb Williams. In fact, one of the guys who does a draft analyst, Mike Renner from the Green Bay Packers, actually was interviewed with Clay Harbor the other day and said that he thinks that Caleb Williams is going to be the better prospect between him and Jordan Love in 2 years. So even the Green Bay Packers have Caleb Williams on their radar right now. So let's kick this off. Ryan Poles has done well in creating a bevy of picks in each of his first two NFL drafts. Even though the Bears have a league low 4 picks in this week's NFL draft, it doesn't sound like Poles is pressing for more. During his Tuesday press conference, he was asked if he felt the need to add more draft picks to his arsenal. And he says, "No, I feel really good with where we're at." So, and with that in mind, I did my draft today with just those 4 picks, and I did an AI generated draft, which gave me a different selection, which we will also look at as we get towards that portion of the show today. An interesting, it played out pretty interesting, by the way. I do want to say, like, I was not prepared, if you will, for the same. They basically made the same picks, and then it got a little bit weird towards the end. I'm not sure if it was thinking clearly. I don't know what the AI was looking to do with that, but there's people that have been on our radar a couple of different times, and they actually took those guys, but I don't think it really fits in with the scheme of the team. Last year, Poles traded back 1 spot from number 9 in a deal that ultimately netted them the Philadelphia Eagles' 4th-round selection in the 2024 draft. That deal came after the team moved off the number 1 pick and collected a haul for the Carolina Panthers. Back in 2022, Poles was wheeling and dealing all over the place on day 3. But perhaps as the Bears move on to the next stage of their team building phase, Chicago's front office now isn't stressing about accumulating a volume of picks. Value over volume. Here's an idea that could work. From what Brad Biggs hears, the Bears have let other teams know that they are open to trade discussions, but then he says it would be more newsworthy if the Bears told teams they were locked in at number 9. In other words, expect the unexpected when it comes to what Ryan Poles does on NFL draft weekend. So let me also say this. In the event when you're looking at this draft, if you see, obviously number 1 is going to go, and that'll be Caleb Williams. But when you get to number 9, what if something catastrophic happens? What if Caleb Williams goes number 1, Drake May goes number 2, Jaden Daniels goes number 3, Arizona goes Marvin Harrison Jr., and then at number 5 we get JJ McCarthy ends up getting picked, and then Malik Neighbors gets picked, and then Joe Alt, and then Olu Fashad, and then all of a sudden there are a lot of weapons that are still sitting available at the number 9 selection, and you know that you have a potential to trade down. And what you could end up doing is trading with the Jets, who are interested in an offensive tackle, and they'll give you a pick to move up in order to get their guy What if you get into a situation in which you can make a trade and you can still get your guy? Well, then that changes things, because if you just consider that, Dallas Turner is going to be on that radar, and I don't think we're going with defense, by the way. I think we're going with Rome Odunze. I think I think what they're trying to do, or what the Bears would be looking at, is to be locked into Rome Odunze. And if he's available and you can move down in the draft and still make sure that you acquire him, there's a risk, by the way, to this, but if you could still acquire him, then maybe you've just won. Maybe you've just won, so to speak. Now, of course, if you get into that situation and the Jets decide to heist you and they take Rome Odunze, then that leaves you with different options. But then you start looking at somebody like if you can't move down to Brian Thomas as a wide receiver, and that doesn't become an option, you still have Adonai Mitchell, which probably a better prospect than Xavier Worthy in Texas, and it gives you an option there if you're still into a wide receiver. Now, if that point you decide, that's not on our radar, what's still on your radar? Amarius Mims, Brock Bowers, Luatu Latu, Jared Verse. You still have Troy Fatanu that's out there. You're still going to have Brian Thomas, and you're going to have J.C. Latham in that mix. You'll have that Byron Murphy cat from Texas also in the mix. So Tyler Guyton from Oklahoma. You've got a lot of options that will start to appear, but it would also give you the need to draft down. So I think very carefully and very specifically, I would get this sense as we go into this that the Chicago Bears are locked in on Rome at number 9, but are willing to move around and look at some options. So, but in the meantime, until we know for sure, we're going to go with the 4 picks that we have. So how the board falls will ultimately decide which direction the Bears go in round 1. If 4 quarterbacks go early, then the chance of one of the top 3 receivers falling to them increases dramatically. But if a quarterback lingers on the board, then perhaps polls will be fielding phone calls from teams wanting to draft the quarterback 4 in that class. Remember, the Bears paid a pretty penny at 2022 first and 4th round selections to trade up to take Justin Fields in 2021. And Fields was the 4th of 5 quarterbacks taken in the first round. So it isn't inconceivable to believe that they could ask for a similar return if J.J. McCarthy, Jaden Daniels, or Drake May fall out of the top 5. There's a part of me rooting for lightning to strike twice. This is from an article that was written. So it's entirely possible that we see some sort of dramatic move that happens, but it will be predicated on whether or not what we expect to happen in those first 9 picks actually happens, because we could be looking at a weird sort of situation if quarterbacks start to fall and people are looking at, again, you have Olu Fashanu, you have Talise Fuaga, you have Joe Alt, you have 3 very talented tackles that are available early on. You have Dallas Turner creeping his way into that discussion. So you have some talent that's still out there waiting for the right moment. And if at number 9 Rome is there, we go for Rome. If he's not there, or if and by the way, there's a reason that we're locked in on Rome Odunze. No matter what anybody thinks, there's a reason that it appears to be locked in. And let me also state for the record, when Justin Fields there was discussions about the trading of Justin Fields. There was a lot of people that liked one way or another, no matter what you liked. There were signs and there were signals all around. And those signs and those signals that were coming out were pretty confident that something was going to happen. They weren't sure. Nobody was sure, but there were rumors. There were pieces that were being leaked out to people where we were talking about it. And then, of course, hindsight's always 2020. And then you can go and you can start to look at those pieces and you can say, well, you know what? This guy knew a little bit more than what he was letting on. This guy knew a little bit more than what he was letting on. When you take all those pieces and you do the same thing and you extrapolate it right now, then the move is number 9, Rome Odunze. Why is that the move? You might be asking yourself. Well, good question. So yesterday, here's what got real interesting. Yesterday, Rome Odunze in Detroit, they're there for the draft, worked out with Caleb Williams. But guess who showed up? DJ Moore and Keenan Allen. So you had all four of these guys on the field together, throwing the ball around and basically practicing. So if that's the case, then what exactly are we talking about here? Well, um, Adunzi has been a name that's connected to the Bears and is certainly among the players the Bears could consider drafting at number 9. According to Tom Pelissaro, Adunzi recently caught balls from Williams during a pre-draft workout. That session also happened to include a pair of Williams' soon-to-be teammates, DJ Moore and Keenan Allen. So in Detroit yesterday, we got to see Caleb firsthand. We got to see Rome firsthand. We got to see all of these guys working out together. And by the way, there is video of this up on Twitter that you can go out and watch. So, was this a big deal? I mean, it seems to be. Seems like there's something. Seems like there's something going on right there. So, I mean, what do you think? We've got this video that's been making the rounds, and let's pop this up on the screen. You got DJ Moore over there playing defense, it looks like. And you got Caleb Williams throwing the ball around at this preseason workout. Now, of course, if you're paying attention here, are there any other players here that you recognize, or any other people that you recognize? You have no idea yet. What we know so far is that those four people were for sure there, uh, doing what they do, if you will. And there's a couple of different videos, by the way, of this. So you can see this one here. All right, so these guys are out here having fun. These guys are enjoying their time. They're getting ready for an NFL draft in which they are going to be likely both top 10 selections. So they're out here just having a little bit of fun. But the fact that DJ Moore is there with them and that Keenan Allen is there with them and they are throwing balls together should be an indication, or at least should be something that you could look at and at least think was a pretty big deal. And I think that a lot of people are now starting to talk to. And by the way, this is a coincidence. It's not. They didn't plan on. Hey, let's just start practicing for the Chicago Bears. This is just a speculative thing. And look, when you start to break apart all of the players in this draft, then you start to look at Rome Odunze matches up very well and very favorably to Marvin Harrison Jr. If you can't make that big move up, and it's expensive to make that move up, then you stand pat and you go with Rome at number 9 if you can get him. So, and to be fair, I think that offense is going to be the number one thing. I think you're going to be looking at what's on your list. Number 1, Rome Odunze at number 9. Number 2, Joe Alt. And there are going to be a few players that may fall down just a little bit. That don't make it, that we might think of, like Malik Neighbors possibility, not a big possibility, but a potential. Marvin Harrison hasn't been talking to a lot of people. He's been kind of ignoring everybody. There are places where you can consider that there's possibility of people falling down into this draft to just fall into the Bears' laps. You've got Olu Fashanu. So if I were just to say, if we're starting with offense, then we're going to look at number 1 who could potentially fall. First of all, Rome Odunze, I think, is going to be your number 1 guy. I think that at this point, Rome is that guy. You have Joe Alt, you have Olu Fashanu, you have Talise Fuaga. You do have a few offensive options that are potentially going to fall into that range. But then when you get past that, you've got Amarius Mims, you've got Brock Bowers. By the way, Brock Bowers, leading receiver on Georgia the last 2 years. So this could turn into a 3 tight end, 1 receiver sort of, or 2 receiver, 3 tight end sort of setup that you rarely see in the NFL, because it might work pretty well. However, when you keep going down, you got Troy Fatanu coming out, JC Latham. I mean, these are people that you can reach down in the draft to get, but there are options that are going to be available. The perspective, and here's this, I did an auto draft. We won't look at the whole auto draft right now, but let me show you what it looks like. Caleb Williams came out at number 1. And then we had Drake May coming at number 2. Jaden Daniels was number 3. Marvin Harrison, number 4. Malik Neighbors, Joe Alt, Olu Fashanu, Dallas Turner, Roma Dunze. This is, by the way, this is an auto draft. This is not my draft. So the auto draft chose Caleb Williams and Roma Dunze as well. But, these 3 guys, Malik Neighbors potentially, or Marvin Harrison, one of them, or Joe Alt, Olu Fashanu, these guys could fall down, and we could be looking at J.J. McCarthy, who comes in at number 11 here. We could see J.J. McCarthy being swapped in one of these positions. For example, New York. New York is desperate for a quarterback. Tommy DeVito, hey, forget about it. You know what I'm saying? Hey, I don't think that he's the guy. And I don't think that New York even thinks that he's the guy. So it would be wild to me if they didn't reach and try to get J.J. McCarthy. So again, there are some options. And then, of course, if you trade down, then then you do have even more options. So I think we're in a really good position. This is just a matter of making it happen, right? So, but anyway, Caleb, Rome, DJ, and Keenan all got together the day before the draft, or 2 days before the draft, in order to hang out. Now let's move on to wilder news. And the wilder news is that Chicago Bears are going to move forward with a domed stadium on the lakefront. They bought that place in Arlington Heights, but they're not going to do anything with it that we know of at this point. However, there's a lot of give and take on this. Illinois Jones says, I think Brock Bowers would be an excellent addition. I think he would be an excellent addition too. But the problem with Brock Bowers is, how do you fit him into this team? And what do you do? Cole Kmet, you got it at a good discount. Gerald Everett, you've got for 2 years. It would be complicated to run with 3 elite tight ends on the same team. That would be an interesting sort of thing, but I don't know. So anyway, so the stadium, the way that it's working right now, when Soldier Field was, and by the way, there is some information about this. There's some bad information on this as well. The build is centered around the south parking lot of Soldier Field. And when the Soldier Field was renovated in 21 years ago, it cost $632 million. But if the Bears scrap it and build a new Lakefront Stadium in the parking lot next door, it will likely cost nearly 4 times that, with the team prepared to offer more than $2 billion in private financing. So the Bears are putting up, or willing to put up, for a Lakefront Stadium $2 billion in order to make this happen. The Chicago Bears are proud to contribute over $2 billion to build a stadium and improve open spaces for all families, fans, and general public to enjoy in the city of Chicago. Kevin Warren said the future stadium of Chicago Bears will be a transformative opportunity for our region, boosting the economy, creating jobs, facilitating mega events, and generating millions in tax revenue. We look forward to sharing more information when our plans are finalized. Mayor Brandon Johnson has said that he likes what he sees so far. What I can say is that the conversation has been very positive. I appreciate the leadership of Kevin Warren. He's done an outstanding job. Johnson also released a statement saying, I have said all along that meaningful private investment and a strong emphasis on public benefit are my requirements for public-private partnerships in our city. The Chicago Bears plans are a welcome step in that direction and a testament to Chicago's economic vitality. I look forward to subsequent talks with the Bears, state leadership, and community stakeholders about how we can continue to responsibly support the aspirations of the team, its fans, and all residents of the city of Chicago. So it looks like this stadium might be, at this point, a slam dunk. Now, the problem is that this is going to require, if this is what they're saying, if this, depending on the amount, there could be more public financing. Now, the public financing portion of this, let's just consider something that we're talking about here. Okay. So Bears are going to put up $2 billion. The rest of it would have to be put up by the city. The estimated cost of it is $2.3 billion. So let's get into that portion. So they want $2.3 billion in public funds to build a new stadium, a 40-year bond to cover it. The 400 million in bonds that were issued to pay for the last renovation still has an outstanding balance of $640 million 22 years later. This is on top of the 35 to 40 billion in unfunded pensions that are still out there. So that is a lot of that is a lot of money that the city of Chicago would have to put up and continue to pay this is a very complicated sort of situation. So this could be prohibitive. Now, if this is going to have to be a vote because that's the way that it works. So I don't know. What do you guys think? I mean, is this something that could be done if you know that you have to put up? I mean, let's say 2.3 billion in public funds, right? That means we're talking about a $4.3 billion stadium, and that's not true. This is not entirely true what this guy's saying. Okay. So at least consider they're putting up 2 billion and they want at least, 500 more million or so to be publicly funded in order to finish the project. But remember, the Dallas Cowboys built $1 billion dome stadium. So it would be nothing for Chicago to do so. And by the way, what if, and just humor me here, what if the Chicago Bears created a dome stadium and that dome stadium also had the lights and the system like the Eye or the Sphere or whatever it's called in Las Vegas? Wouldn't it be interesting to see that populate the skyline and suddenly become just an absolute sight to behold? And it's constantly running footage of the Chicago Bears or any other sports team or something like that to attract people or concert advertisements. It'd be fantastic, in my opinion. And what do I know? You know what I mean? But would be interesting to see. So having a dome is so important. Having a new stadium is obviously going to be very important. The Bears are behind the times when it comes down to it. The McCaskey family, not that they're not crushing it in terms of management of a team. So this would be a very interesting thing to happen over the next little while. So shout out to everybody. I hope that we get what we're looking for. I hope we get the stadium that we want. I hope we get the design that we're looking for. I hope all this stuff ends up being very, very cool. So now it's time to hear it on the X, and let's see what's going on Twitter X right now. Bears GM Ryan Poles says everyone has to tune in on Thursday night to find out what they're going to do with the number 1 pick. We will be live here, by the way, on Thursday night in order to work our way through this to see exactly what happens because we do want to be available, and we do want to talk about everything that's going on in this draft. And, I'm going to I think all the excitement really is over for the number 1 pick. I think it's pretty clear that we're going with Caleb, if you will. I think that's pretty much a slam dunk. So the question now becomes, what's going on at number 9? And every time we get a pick that comes in with the 4th pick in the overall draft, the Arizona Cardinals select Marvin Harrison Jr. I'm going to be frustrated by that because I would really like to see that guy here in a Chicago uniform. But and each one of those that goes by, as soon as I hear Roma Dunzee's name called before number 9, that's when we're going to start to panic. And that's when we're going to see, well, the Bears are now trading down because F that. You know what I mean? So I'll be interested to see what's happening now. Clay Harbor had an interview here where he met with Mike Renner. Mike Renner is right here, an NFL draft analyst from Notre Dame, alumni, and has about 90,000 followers on X. And he says that he thinks in 2 years, because I'm a master badger and this, but I think that I'm going to lean Caleb Williams. I do think that 2 years is probably when you start to see the light switch flip on to where he is, probably going to be the MVP conversation. For as much as Jordan Love I like, I hate, I've said this a zillion times, Jordan Love, and I hate every time I say it, but as much as I think he's a darn good quarterback, I worry if he's accurate enough to really be that. So even the Green Bay Packers analysts right now are looking at Caleb Williams, chomping at the bit, saying, this guy could be everything. And they're watching it. They're seeing it on tape. So interesting conversation that they had. I suggest you go check it out. Now, this right here is a potential list of the Chicago Bears offense. Quarterback one, Caleb Williams. Number two, Tyson Bagent. Running backs, DeAndre Swift, Khalil Herbert, Roshan Johnson. Wide receivers, DJ Moore, Keenan Allen, Rome Odunze, and then Cole Kmet, Gerald Everett. Now, guys, would you like to have this right here? And the question would be, and I think Illinois Jones probably bringing it up best when he says, Waldron would love to have Brock Bowers. He has a great lead blocker in a Yak King and has great hands. So that's the question. If you have Brock Bowers and you have Rome Odunze, I think the answer is Rome Odunze. And by the way, Illinois, I don't no disrespect to the idea, because I think that it actually would be an interesting idea to have a Brock Bowers. I do think that he represents. I think the guy really is a phenomenal tight end, and in the NFL, it's very difficult to be a team leader. But here's the thing: you have Gerald Everett for 2 years, you have Cole Kmet locked up for at least another 3 years. The question right now is, where do you need the help? Right? Well, Keenan Allen's only here for a year. I really feel like Keenan Allen is a rental, so we need to get a good wide receiver in here immediately to take advantage of his knowledge, so that some of that Keenan Allen expertise rubs off on Rome Odunze, just in case we don't have Keenan Allen back for another year. If he's only on this rental contract for this final year of his contract, and he won't take a pay cut because I don't think the Bears are going to give him $25 million. I don't think we're going to give him the amount of money he'd be looking for. By the way, he could start to come down just a little bit on price and stuff like that. Like, there could be some situations. And of course, we do have to consider what happens if Rome is not available at the number 9 selection. Do you reach for Brock Bowers? And does that become the new norm? And and maybe he's your slot guy. Maybe he becomes something fantastic that you've very rarely seen. He's a big, strong guy. He drags people along. He'll be a little adjustment coming to the NFL where everybody's a big star and not just some of the guys. So he's not going to drag as many people as he did in Georgia, but it would be an interesting situation, and I'm certainly fascinated to see how it plays out. Now, before I get into this, I would like to recognize Nick Adams as one of the dumbest people I've ever had my eyes hurt from reading this idiot's draft, is all I'm going to say. And it is just oh my God. And look, some of you guys are going to actually think he's hilarious. I appreciate that because I think the guy's trying to be funny. But I'm going to give you a draft analysis here for a man named Nick Adams. And his name in quotations is alpha male, and it's Nick Adams in USA. When you start to hear some of these selections at some of these spots here, you might shake your head, or you might be like, yeah, this guy's actually got it right, man. He knows exactly what I'm talking about. Like, this is exactly, he knows, man. This guy's a bro. You know what I mean? Like, he really gets it. And if you do that, oh, Jesus Christ. Anyway, so here he is right here in all his glory. He says, my 2024 mock draft has arrived. Caleb Williams is not on it. So he didn't even pick Caleb Williams. So it's going to get a little bit interesting, just a little bit. Okay. His number one overall selection is Brock Bowers. He says the Bears have several gaping. Oh, and by the way, I should, let me. The Bears have several gaping holes to fill, but would be wise to pass on the certified beta male Caleb Williams with the number one overall pick. Brock Bowers is the best tight end prospect since Tim Tebow. His addition will create an epic 1-2 punch at tight end with pro-Israel and pro-Trump stud Cole Kmet. So just in case you're wondering how this is going to go, it's going to be kind of funny. This year's class is loaded at quarterback, so Chicago can afford to take the best player available at 1 and get their franchise quarterback at 9. Bowers is tough, physical, and athletic. Despite his freak measurements, Kyle Pitts has never quite put it together at the professional level. Bowers' love for the game and work ethic is unquestionable and will translate far better to the NFL than Pitts. At number 2, the Washington Redskins pick Drake May. Number 3, uh, Cooper DeJean, the cornerback out of Iowa. He's the most exciting defensive back prospect in years. He's an elite zone defender with great speed and athleticism who can run with any receiver. DeJean is a fundamentally sound tackler who knows how to lay the lumber and support on the blitzes. The Iowa product will bring the Midwestern values that the Patriots franchise has been lacking since Michigan graduate Tom Brady left for income tax free Florida in 2020 to be closer to his great friend Donald Trump. DeJean is a corner piece for the Patriots' upcoming rebuild. And this is the guy from Iowa. Notice anything starting to become interesting about all of his picks? Well, we'll get to that. Next up is Marvin Harrison Jr. Arizona has continued to come up short on the offensive side of the ball, but second-year head coach Jonathan Gannon is committed to Kyler Murray. The quarterbacks have an easy home run pick here with the best wide receiver in the class. Marvin Harrison brings a great football DNA, incredibly deep faith in the Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, and an unmatched work ethic. Then we get to number 5, and they take Ladd McConkey, wide receiver out of Georgia. Are we noticing a trend here? Are we noticing the trend yet? Expect the 2023 Danny Werfel Trophy recipient to make an impact on day one for the Chargers, not just on the field, but in the locker room with his pro-God and pro-service leadership. Number 6 for the New York Giants, J.J. McCarthy. Number 7, Joe Alt. Number 8, Ricky Pearsall. Number 9, Gavin Hardison, quarterback from the University of Texas, El Paso. And he says that the 6'3" signal caller follows daily Bible verses on Instagram and is an outspoken member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Gavin is also a fan of President Trump's friend and LIV golfer Brooks Koepka. NFL comparisons for Hardison is a more masculine Jordan Love. This guy is out of his goddamn mind. Okay. Number 10 is Ben Sinnott, tight end for Kansas. I'm looking at this and I'm like, what the fuck is going on here? Well, number 11, Tualia Tagovailoa, the brother of Tua. And then number 12, Joe Milton, quarterback from Tennessee. And then Luke McCaffrey with the number 13 pick. Now, guys, we know who some of these players are, right? Number 14, Roma Dunzi. Number 15, Cody Schrader from Missouri. And then number 16, Cade Stover, tight end out of Illinois. So I think that we can kind of see this guy is out of his goddamn mind. So if you haven't already and you're into a laugh, then I would suggest at Nick Adams in USA. And this is the most radically stupid draft that I've ever seen. And by the way, there can still be some good picks on this. I'm not saying that there's not. There's certain obvious things, like he had to go with Marvin Harrison at the number 4. I mean, some of these made sense. And Roma Dunzi dropping to 14, it was because he had, his own picks that he wanted to be, and they had to be born again, or they had to be highly and deeply religious, or they had to be right wing. Not just right wing. I shouldn't say that. They had to be MAGA or Trump supporters. Like that. That's what he was picking, and those are the pieces that he were using. Talent seems to be secondary in his ideals, and I mean, it's a horrible draft. Cade Stover comes in as like the 100th best prospect, but he's got him at number 14. It was just ridiculous. But hey, man, everybody's got their thing. Now, defensive lineup hasn't changed at all. And then the offensive lineup, look, here's what I did. I went ahead and threw in I went ahead and threw in Roma Dunzi. I know that this is not set in stone right now, that nothing has been done, and there are 12 men on the field again. But I went ahead and I threw Roma Dunzi in there and just said, look, this is the guy that we're going for. I think it's obvious at this point. This is the man for the Chicago Bears. So I do think that that's what we're going to see. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to ink him into the starting lineup for the moment. And maybe, just maybe, I'm manifesting that into reality. So, Absolutely crazy what this fucking guy did. Anyway, this is what I got. This is what I came up with in my draft today. Um, Sophisticated Thought says, "Yeah, this is the NFL draft before integration, pretty much." That's exactly what I felt too. Like it just seemed like to me like it is just such a garbage. Oh man. Anyway, so my number one pick here, Caleb Williams. My number 9 pick here, Roma Dunzi. Number 75, Cedric Van Pran Granger, looking for that center of the future. Cedric Van Pran Granger comes in as the fourth best center in the draft. And then we have at number 122, Delmer Glaze, offensive tackle out of Maryland, best available player in that spot. Now, this was me making a selection in this draft, taking Caleb and Rome to put them together so that they could work together, um, trying to get a center of the future, and then make sure that I have an offensive tackle on staff that could be my offensive tackle of the future if I'm not getting them in the number 1, number 9 in that first round. So hopefully building for the future, but that's not the good one. The good one, the one that made me go, huh, is this one right here. Now, what I did was, full disclosure, I chose a 7-round draft. I chose no team, and I just let the computer do it. And they didn't make any trades for me. They didn't do anything. They actually just did 4 picks. So we're gonna go look at it. We'll probably skip the second round. We'll look at the second round. But number one, we took here was Caleb. Caleb Williams was the number 1 selection overall. Drake May, Jaden Daniels, Marvin Harrison, Malik Neighbors, Joe Alt, Olu Fashanu, Dallas Turner. And then at number 9, we got our guy, Roma Dunzi. And then, of course, filling all of this out, you can see who the guys are. You can, guys, you can stop this and pause if you really care about who everybody else picked in this fictitious thing. You can see a few trades, but not very many. Now, moving into round 2, there were no picks for the Chicago Bears in round 2, but if you're interested, Graham Barton, noteworthy, coming at 33. Patriots taking Xavier Worthy, and then the Cardinals taking Zach Frazier. Those are all kind of, for me anyway, some interesting ones. And then Lad McConkey coming down here at number 43. Chop Robinson falls to number 50. So that was an interesting move there. In round 3, we got the Chicago Bears taking Jonathan Brooks, running back out of Texas. Now, look, I'm all for taking a running back, but if we have 3 on the roster, then it seems kind of weird that we would do that unless you're really looking for that replacement for Khalil Herbert and you're looking to make a trade for Khalil Herbert. And if you are, why are you not doing it for draft capital, which in this case would mean that there would be more picks. So, I'm not really sure that I follow along with Jonathan Brooks as the selection. But again, you can see some famous names out here. Indianapolis Colts taking Roman Wilson, Javon Bullard going to the Texans, Chris Jenkins going to the Raiders. So there are some guys out here. Then we get to the 4th round, and then in the 4th round, we take Malik Washington, wide receiver out of Virginia, and that completed the draft for us. Again, you're looking around and you see a lot of different familiar names. We've gotten familiar with a lot of these people, but that's what we got. And by the way, if you want to do this, you can go to profootballnetwork.com/mock draft, and you can just set it for, we're going to enter a solo draft and we're going to see what happens here. Caleb Williams, Luatu Latu is who we chose in this one. So, you can just kind of set this thing and let it figure out who your guys are going to be. And then, again, number 75, by the way, I just watched this thing play out. They took Jonathan Brooks again. So there must be something that I'm not thinking, or that somebody's thinking in this system, that somehow or another the Bears are going to need somebody to replace probably Khalil Herbert. So interesting. We got, by the way, if you're wondering, DeAndre Swift, 8 years, 8 years, God damn it, 3 years, $24 million. So DeAndre Swift's going to be here for a little while. Khalil Herbert, not going to be here for a little while. He's going to be in play his way out part of the contract. And by the way, when we look at this, I want to show you this. You never know what you're going to get on these, right? Caleb Williams went at number 1. Everything seemed to be the same until we got to number 8, Terrion Arnold. Then we took Luatu Latu. Roma Dunzi falls to number 18. Brock Bowers falls to number 15. So, no. No, DeAndre Swift is 3 years, 24 million, 8 million a year. So Chop Robinson now number 22 instead of number 50. So, this thing gets a little bit wild. And by the way, Brian Thomas was selected before Roma Dunzi in this draft. And Graham Barton over here was selected in the first round. And Jackson Powers Johnson then fell to number 39 in the second round. And again, it's a testimony to, some of this stuff you just absolutely have no idea exactly what is going to go on when you see this. So, and yeah, but guys, if you haven't already, at least consider hitting the like button. It doesn't cost you anything, and it helps push me up in the algorithm. And that's for later on in the day, guys. This is my job, so I certainly appreciate everybody who supports me. Become a member of the channel, by the way, if you're interested. But I think I think it doesn't cost you anything to use your finger and just press that like button. It pushes me up in the algorithm, gives me the rest of the day for this video to trend and send. And then, again, that helps me out tremendously. But anyway, that's my time, guys. We're going to come back. We're going to do tomorrow. We're going to do our final draft in the morning. And then after that, we're going to come back live a little bit later on in the day. We are going to go live for the draft. So we'll be here all evening doing that with you guys. We certainly want to see what happens. Of course, we want to celebrate Caleb Williams as he becomes the number 1 overall pick in the draft. I'm pretty sure that's locked in. You never know. You never really know. Somebody named Ringo, some ESPN dildo yesterday said that Jaden Daniels should be the number 1 pick, and fair enough. I mean, you can have an opinion about it, but Jesus Christ, nothing against Jaden Daniels, by the way, but I think we already saw Jaden Daniels when he was named Justin Fields, and it didn't work out. And I don't think that his skill set is the same as Caleb Williams. I think he's probably a more athletic player overall. He's probably going to be a phenomenal talent, but we already saw, I mean, again, we saw the same thing in Justin Fields, and it didn't work out. So let's go with the guy that we know plays the way that we need a quarterback to play in the NFL, and let's not take risks anymore. Lamar Jackson, guys, I love Lamar Jackson, 2-time MVP in this league. Can't win playoff games, so we need somebody who can make the throws that we don't have to worry about having an off game. You know what I mean? We need that guy, and this guy wants to be a Hall of Famer. You know what I mean? Like, and again, I'm certainly not saying that Caleb Williams is better than Jaden Daniels. You put him in a race, Jaden Daniels will probably smoke him. But when it comes to making the right throws and reading your progressions the right way and doing all of that, I think Caleb Williams is that safer choice. So let's go. Let's go. All right, guys, that's it for the day. Thank you so much for tuning in. I appreciate each and every one of you. Remember to bear down. Remember the Chicago Bears. We're going to be in a domed stadium on the waterfront. That's going to be absolutely fabulous, or fabsolutely abulous, whatever you want to say. It doesn't matter here. You can say whatever you want. Anyway, that's my time, guys. You guys have a good day, and we'll talk to you again very, very soon.